My name is Giliana.
My name is Carlos Yanez.
My name is Sam Ortiz Diaz.
When I hear the word dreamer, I think of a very specific type of undocumented person. I think in essence, a dreamer is basically someone who came to the US when they were young, academically talented, ambitious. I also see it as, to a toxic extent, where they're seen as someone that has to be perfect.
What I think about when I hear the word dreamer is it kind of ties back to like the good and bad migrant narrative. I think it's a very outdated term.
Every time I hear the word dreamer, I think of a DACA recipient, because most of the time when you tell someone who's not knowledged on the undocumented community, oh, this person is a dreamer, they automatically think, DACA recipient, undocumented student, and they tend to forget about the fact that there's dreamers that are fully undocumented.
I used to refer to myself as a dreamer starting out in the movement. When I was learning about like my own status, how it affected me, how like my different experiences weren't the same as my classmates. So I think I started characterizing myself as a dreamer out of desperation and out of a need to be accepted. So as I grew older, I kind of started developing a different viewpoint. So now I feel more free when I don't refer to myself as a dreamer, because I feel like I don't have to be extraordinary.
I personally have never referred to myself as a dreamer. I think my mom would call me a dreamer when I would just giggle. But I honestly didn't, just because I think that was a term that we used like way back in the day in like the early 2000s. And I think very early on, I just kind of knew that it didn't really fit me.
The effects that I've seen the dreamer narrative have in the undocumented community have not been good ones, especially being in college. Whenever we tell someone like, oh, I'm undocumented, they automatically think back to that word, dreamer. And so they automatically put me under this category that I have DACA, and they put that assumption on me. For example, when you look at a scholarship and a scholarship says open to dreamers, about, I would say, 85 to 90% of the time, that scholarship ends up only being open for DACA recipients. So then in that instance, it's where you see that significance of the word dreamer. And in that instance is where you see just how powerful that word is and how exclusive it is.
A lot of the scholarships available are kind of only available for people who are perfect. If you mess up, like a lot of kids do, you're not eligible for that scholarship. If you don't have like a perfect 4.0, if you don't have perfect extracurriculars, or if you had anything else, you're almost out of luck. So in many aspects, the dreamer narrative and the need for an immigrant to be perfect, it kind of just damages every aspect of an immigrant's life.
I would say to politicians and others that perpetuate that narrative to honestly, let's move on from that and just try to be as inclusive as we can so we can all get a pathway to citizenship.
I think that we need to move past that word and realize, it's either all of us or none of us, because this picking and choosing who gets the pathway to citizenship, this picking and choosing who qualifies as a dreamer and who doesn't, it's just making a divide within the community.
I think a lot of this is a game. Unfortunately, it's a political game as much as it is a money game. You have the top immigrant organizations raking in millions of dollars who kind of profit off of this narrative, and politicians, we elect politicians through grassroots movements. We elect them, we keep them in office, and we end up disappointed because they keep on using the same criminalizing narratives. So I think to politicians specifically, if you want to stay elected, move away from that, because I've seen the movement and the immigrant community move away from that narrative as well. And even for organizations who are immigrant rights organizations or who work in proximity with those communities, learn from the communities that you're helping, learn from what they're saying, learn from their experience. And if people are telling you we need to move away from this narrative, it's not up to you to decide that you don't want to, because at the end of the day, you're there to serve that community and you're not there to police them.
What the movement needs to be focusing on would be inclusivity. I think we often talk about immigration as just it's very Mexico-centric, and I think a lot of people are not aware that it's not just Mexicans coming here. We have a lot of Haitians, a lot of Afro-Latinxes, and they also need to be included in these conversations. I do a lot of advocacy work, and it's always so important to include everyone, because it's not just about me, right? It's about my parents, it's about my friends, it's about my abuelitos that can't be here.
I think that we've gotten past the point where we need to prove our worth to everyone and why we deserve to be here. We're more than just a statistic. We're more than just people who add in taxes and give more money to the government. So I think Oryx needs to start focusing on getting help for all of us, not just students, not just the young people, but their parents as well.
What I think the immigrant movement should be focusing on, it's a little difficult. While I want everyone to live like a safe and a peaceful life, like I agree with like citizenship would give that to a lot of people. So citizenship for all, like that's where my mind starts. But then it kind of goes into like, what if citizenship doesn't save everyone? So I think of like Black communities who have been really policed, who are U.S. citizens, who have to go through all this stuff, even though they have the U.S. citizenship protection. SB 1070, U.S. citizens were getting stopped. There's been denaturalization campaigns to take U.S. citizenship away. There's been like mass deportation campaigns. There was Operation Gatekeeper, I apologize for the use of this word, but it was called Operation Wetback, where U.S. citizens were deported by the U.S. government. So I think I don't have specifically an answer of what the immigrant communities should be focusing on. I think citizenship for all is a start, but I think there's a lot of work to do.